Embrace silence. Here's a quote from John Stuart Mill. Solitude in the sense of being often alone is essential to any depth of meditation or character. Solitude in the presence of natural beauty and grandeur is the cradle of thought and aspirations, which are not only good for the individual but which society could ill do without. The man who founded Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill W., said, "Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us." Embrace silence. You live in a noisy world constantly bombarded with loud music, sirens, construction equipment, jet airplanes, rumbling trucks, leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and tree cutters. These human-made unnatural sounds invade your senses and keep silence at bay. In fact, you've been raised in a culture that not only shuns silence but is terrified of it. The car radio must always be on, and any pause in conversation is a moment of embarrassment that most people quickly fill with chatter. For many, being alone is a nightmare, and being alone in silence is pure torture. The famous scientist Blaise Pascal once observed, "All man's miseries derive from not being able to sit quietly in a room alone." The value of silence. There's a momentary silence in the space between your thoughts that you can become aware of with practice. In this silent space, you'll find the peace that you crave in your daily life. You'll never know that peace if you have no spaces between your thoughts. The average person is said to have 60,000 separate thoughts every day. With so many thoughts, there are almost no gaps. If you could reduce that number by half, you would open up an entire world of possibilities for yourself. For it is when you merge into the silence and become one with it that you reconnect to your source and know the peacefulness that some call God. "Be still and know that I am God" says it so beautifully in the Psalms of the Old Testament. The key words are still and know. Be still actually means silence. Mother Teresa described silence and its relationship to God by saying, "God is the friend of silence." See how nature, trees, grass grows in silence. See the stars, the moon, and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch souls. This includes your soul. It's really the space between the notes that makes the music you enjoy so much. Without the spaces, all you would have is one continuous noisy note. Everything that's created comes out of silence. Your thoughts emerge from the nothingness of silence. Your words come out of this void. Your very essence emerged from emptiness. Those who will supersede us are waiting in the vast void. All creativity requires some stillness. Your sense of inner peace depends on spending some of your life energy in silence to recharge your battery, remove tension and anxiety, and reacquaint you with the joy of knowing God and feeling closer to all of humanity. Silence reduces fatigue and allows you to experience your own creative juice. The second word in the Old Testament observation is know. Know, K-N-O-W, refers to making your personal and conscious contact with God. To know God is to banish doubt and become independent of others' definitions and descriptions of God. Instead, you have your own personal knowing. And as Melville reminded us so poignantly, God's one and only voice is silence. Accessing more silence in your life, I urge you to demand more and more time for silence in your life. One of the most effective ways to bring this about is to make meditation a daily practice. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad meditation. Give yourself time to sit quietly alone. At first, your thoughts will take off, trying to convince you that this is a waste of time, that you should be out there being productive and that you've got so many other things to do. Hundreds of other unrelated thoughts will pop up in and out of your mind, but you can weather this thunderstorm of mental protestations by sitting quietly and becoming the observer to all of this inner chatter. Eventually, you'll be able to move to the gaps between your thoughts and notice how peaceful you felt in that silent gap. When you emerge from it, try it right now. Use the Lord's Prayer. Concentrate on the word our and then Father. Try to go into the gap between the two words our and Father. And do it again with who and art and in heaven. Just slip momentarily into the gap and notice how peaceful and exquisite you feel in that gap. I teach a meditation which I describe in detail and guide you through with my voice in a CD cassette called Meditations for Manifesting. This meditation uses the sound of ah as a mantra to keep your thoughts from wandering during the morning meditation. This mantra sound is in virtually all names of the divine. Listen for it, for example, in God, Yahweh, Allah, Krishna, Jehovah. By repeating this mantra sound, you make conscious contact with God. The evening meditation uses the sound of Om, the sound of gratitude for all that has manifested in your life. Repeating the sound of Ah in the morning and Om in the evening for approximately 20 minutes creates an opportunity for you to experience inner peace and success in a way you may never have known before. I talk about this even more completely in a book called Getting in the Gap, Making Conscious Contact with God Through Meditation, and it's available through Hay House. There are many opportunities to access silence. I try to meditate each time I stop at a red light, with the car stopped and my body inactive. Frequently, the only thing still moving are the thoughts in my mind. I use those 2 minutes or so at the stoplight to bring my mind into harmony with my inner car and body. I get a wonderful bonus of silence. I probably stop at a red light 20 or 30 times in a day, creating 40 minutes to an hour of silence. And there's always someone behind me to let me know when my time is up by breaking the silence with a honking horn. Meditation not only affects you, it impacts everyone around you. When you're at peace, you radiate a different kind of energy than when you're stressed or depressed. The more peaceful you become, the easier you can deflect the negative energies of those you encounter. This is like having an invisible shield around you that nothing can penetrate unless it's at a higher spiritual energy than your shield. A hostile current is greeted with a smile and an inner knowing that this is not your stuff. A person who attempts to bring you into their misery cannot succeed without your agreement. Your meditation practice keeps you immune. Not only can you deflect the negativity of those around you, but your sense of peace will bring others into harmony with you. Studies have been done to measure the serotonin levels of those in the vicinity of a large group of meditators. Now, serotonin is a neurotransmitter in your brain that indicates how peaceful and harmonious you feel. Amazingly, just being in the energy field of those who meditate raises the serotonin levels of the observers. These implications are startling. The more you achieve peacefulness through meditation, the more your peaceful state impacts those around you. I find that my meditating not only calms me, but it has a soothing effect on my family and those around me. But the primary benefit is that after a meditation, I find it almost impossible to be annoyed or negatively impacted by anything. Meditation seems to bring me into contact with a source of soothing energy that makes me feel deeply connected to God, making conscious contact with God. Most organized religions have taken on the task of explaining God to their congregations, including all of the rules that God supposedly has laid out for humankind. You cannot come to know God through the experience or testimony of others. This must be done by you. I urge you to meditate because it will bring you more peace, remove stress, improve your surroundings, and deflect negativity. All of this and more will definitely show up when you meditate regularly. I include the embracing of silence as one of my top 10 secrets for inner peace and success. Primarily, it's the only vehicle I know of for making conscious contact with God. God is that which is indivisible. There's only one omnipresent presence called God. This presence is everywhere and is a force that creates and sustains life. It can never be divided or cut up into pieces. It's the only power in the universe, not two. Everything in your experience as a human being appears to be in duality. However, up exists because of its opposite down, light exists because of dark, right exists because of wrong. You've never seen a person with a front who doesn't have a back, an outside without an inside, a north pole of a magnet without a south pole. Our physical world is a world of dichotomies and combinations of opposites, always divisible. Silence, however, is the one experience you can have that's indivisible. You cut silence in half and all you get is more silence. There's only one silence. Therefore, silence is your one way to experience the oneness and the indivisibility of God. This is why you want to meditate. This is how you know God rather than having to settle for knowing about God. You will find your answers in the silence. Remember, it's out of the void, the emptiness, that everything is created. When you write a musical note, the silence from which it comes is just as much a part of the note as is the sound. So it is with healing anything or any relationship. Going into the quiet and listening will inspire you. I can't imagine speaking or writing without first going to God in silence. I seek alone time and space to allow my inspiration to emerge. The wilderness is therapy. Any time in your life when you're feeling out of sorts in any way, go to nature and find your peace. Sending troubled teens to the wilderness to care for animals and commune with nature almost always brings them peace and serenity. Drug addictions disappear when young people are confronted with climbing a mountain or canoeing across the lake. People who have been diagnosed with terminal illnesses often find that months in a cabin in the isolated wilderness, meditating and communing with God, is the exact therapy they need, and sometimes the source of miraculous, spontaneous remissions. If you ever suffer from insomnia, walk barefoot on the grass for 10 minutes before going to bed. Nature has a marvelous way of healing many maladies. Try spending a day in an isolated spot, listening only to the sounds of nature, the birds, the insects, the rustling of leaves, the wind. These are the sounds of healing that can offset the painful sounds of 18-wheelers, cement mixers, boom boxes, and the like. Give yourself opportunities to be in the wilderness as a regular part of your life routine. Take a day each month or week or two to be alone and commune with God. This is the ultimate therapy, and it's much less expensive than paying someone to listen. Keep your silent communion with God to yourself.